the challenge distributed property ones that we're going to be looking at. So if you're at the challenge challenge table, you'll have these. We're going to challenge you on doing a little more in depth of the distributive property than what we would do with a regular lesson that we would do. So I'm challenging you here on this one that we have. So basically what I want you to do here is I can use the distributive property and combine like terms to simplify an expression. Okay, so you're going to be working on that. You're going to be using the distributive property, and then you're also going to combine like terms to simplify an expression. So you're going to do two little parts here. So that's why it's a little bit more of a challenge for you here in this part. So basically what we're going to do is first discuss what is a distributive property, and then we're going to be able to have you to combine like terms. So the first things we have here is we're looking at these pictures and we're seeing what these pictures have in common. So if you look at these pictures that they have in common, you have a picture here of people giving them food at a cafeteria here, like the cooks that you see when you go through the lunch line. You have a mail truck and what they do with that, and then you have a boy going trick-or-treating. So if you think about it, what these people are doing here, what this person's doing here, he's distributing his candy to every trick-or-treater that comes. So every trick-or-treater that comes to him, he's handing a piece of candy to. A mail truck. Every house that the mail man goes to, he delivers a piece of mail to. He takes it out of his truck and distributes it inside that person's mailbox or to the house that they're going to. The same thing here with the cooks that they have. These cooks, these cafeteria workers here, every time someone comes down through the buffet line and says, "Hey, I'd like to have some of that," they scoop them out a piece of the food and give it to them on their plates. So they're distributing the food to the people or their patrons who are stopping by at their station there, just like you do when you go to lunch. Okay, so these pictures here, they're taking what they have and they're distributing to whatever or whoever comes to them in that part. So basically what they have in common is, or what you see here, is they are distributing items from one person to another. And that's basically what we're going to be doing here with the distributive property. But instead of people handing one thing from one person to another, we're going to be taking numbers and distributing them to other numbers so that we can simplify our expressions even further down so that it's easier for us to work with. So basically our main idea here is we're going to use the distributive property, and how that works is using algebra to show multiple quantities of terms. So that right there is important. Multiple quantities. That word there is important for us to know. Multiple. Multiple means multiplication. So we're going to be using multiplication to distribute one item to the next. And what it might look like is if you have this right here. This is an example of one. So what you have here is you have the number on the outside of the parentheses, which is the 5. And what happens is he is distributed to everything that's inside the parentheses through multiplication. So he is distributed to all the terms in the parentheses using multiplication. And basically all we do is we just follow the arrows. I did the 5 is going to be distributed to the 2x. So 5 times 2x will give me 10x. And 5 times 1 will give me 5. and I will get my solution to be that. And it's easier. So what's saying here is I have 2x's plus 1. Well, what would that end up being? Well, that's the same as 10x plus 5. These are the same. Okay, so it's saying if I wanted to know what 5 of these are, I would use a distributive property and be able to find out that it's 10x plus 5. Okay, and I could look and say, well, what about the combined like terms part, Mr. O? Well, let's look at our answer. 10x plus 5. Are any of these terms the same? The answer would be no. I have 10 x's and I have a constant of 5. So these do not have the same variable, so I would leave my answer alone. Okay? But we're going to get into some that have variables that are different and have to combine them. All right, so let's try one or two. So a basic distributive property would be just like we did there. If I took a term 3t minus 7, and I want to know what would it be if I have 2 of them. Okay, so there's 2 on the outside is saying, okay, I want 2 of the stuff that's on the inside in the yellow. So I want 3t's minus 7. And I follow what it says up here. I'm going to distribute those by multiplication because it shows me the multiple quantities, multiplication. So the 2 says, okay, I have 2 of those, so that becomes 2 times 3t. And then it says, okay, I got 2 of these. I have 2 negative 7s, so that becomes 2 times negative 7. And so then I just multiply those. I have 2 times 3 is 6t. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. And I have my solution right there. So 2 of these in the yellow will give me 6t minus 14. And I know that I can't combine these together because my terms are not the same. I have a t variable, I have a constant 14, can't put them together, so I know I'm complete, and so I'm done. I'm ready to move on to my next one. So let's kind of ramp it up a little bit here. Say I give you one like this. 5 plus 6 times 2x plus 1. Okay? Now I want to figure out what this is. So what I need to do is I look through my stuff here and I recognize, oh, I have the distributive property. Because I can't do 5 plus 6 times something and all that. I can't do that quite yet. So I got to do the distributive property first. So the distributive property comes first. And I look here and I say, well, I got the 2x plus 1 as my term. And I'm going to take the 6 and I'm going to see how many I can have when I multiply that. So I take the 6 times the 2 and then the 6 times the 1. So what that leaves me with, 6 times 2 is 12 x's. 6 times 1 will give me 6. And I still have this 5 that comes down because it still has not been touched. It's still there. So now I'm left with this. Now I'm left with this expression. And now I need to look at it and say, well, what can I do? I can make that even smaller. I have a constant and a constant. I can put those two constants together. I have a constant of 5. I have a constant of 6. I can put them together. And I'm ending up with 12x plus 11. And that would be my answer right there. And I've put those together. Okay? It's pretty simple, straightforward like this. But the first thing you should remember to do is I do the distributive property first, then I combine like terms. Okay? So the first thing I need to do is the distributive property. I look for any distributive property. Then I'm going to CLT, combine like terms. So I did that first and the combine like terms second. Let's try another one here. Let's see here if I have one. Let's see here. 2y minus 3 times y minus 3. Okay? So I go through the steps again. I say, okay, well, I got to do step 1. I got to distribute. So let's see where my distributive property is. Here it is, because I have the term inside the parentheses, and I'm going to multiply it. So here's my term inside the parentheses, and I'm going to multiply it by the 3, and I'm going to see what I can get. I want 3 times that inside the parentheses. So I take the 3 and I multiply it by the y. I take the 3 and I'm going to multiply it by the negative 3. So I have 2y minus 3 times y is 3y. And 3 times 3 is, actually it's a negative 3 times negative 3 will give me 9. Okay, negative 3 times the negative 3 is 9. So then I'm not done yet, because I need to look at another step 2 if I need to combine like terms. So I've distributed now. Let's combine like terms. So what are my terms that are alike? Well, I have a 2y and I have a negative 3y. Those are the same things that are alike. So I can put those together. 2 minus 3 would be negative 1y plus 9. Now I have simplified this down and I'm done. I am finished with it. I have completed my like terms there. Okay? The next thing here, what I have, I'm going to do another problem, number 4. Well, what if I have this? Let's ramp one up here and see here. 3x plus 2 plus 2 times 3x minus 1. Okay? What can I do to solve this? Well, man, this is a big expression. It's kind of weird. It looks scary. It's an intimidating expression. But we know the rules. I'm going to do first is I'm going to distribute. When I distribute, I can then simplify it even further down. So I'm going to distribute first. So I look and say, okay, I have this inside the parentheses, and I want to know what 3 of them are. Then I have a 2 here. I want to know what twice this is, 3x plus 1. So I have 2 distributive properties there to do. So I'm going to take 3 times the x. That gives me 3x. 3 times the 2, which will give me 6. Then I have the 2 times the 3, which is 6x. And then the 2 times the negative 1, which is negative 2. Now I'm looking to say, well, what can I do here? I need to combine some terms together. Let's combine this term, my x's, with my x's. And then I'm going to combine my 6's with my negative 2's, because those are constants. So I can put the x's together because of the variables. I can put the 6's and the 2's together, negative 2's, because they are constants. So 3 plus 6x will give me 9x. Oh, I forgot. I got to do step 2 after I'm done. Combine like terms. And then 6 minus 2 will give me minus 4. And I've now completed. Okay? So I've given you 6 problems down here at the bottom. I've given you an example of pretty much each one to do. You can kind of look up here to help you. I would do these on a separate piece of paper. I would do exactly like I did up here. I'd physically draw my arrows, rewrite out what happens when I do that, circle my terms that are correct, alike if I have any, and simplify. You will have to do some more writing and working these out. So paper will be a very important thing for you to use. When you get done with these, you can show them to Mr. O or call him over, and I'll let you look at them and check them. If you got them correct, then we'll move you on to your next item up for lesson.